So, pretty good stuff. That guy, Eric Qualman, like I mentioned, he wrote a book that I would put on par with some of the ones Jeff's talking about too, called Socialnomics, so you may want to check that out as well. Let's talk a little bit more about the power of social media. Some of the manufacturers in the room saw me present this slide last year. All of you, I'm sure, recognize it. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler having a little bit of fun with Sarah Palin and Hillary Clinton on Saturday Night Live. A lot of folks saw these TV shows live, obviously. But then when that particular clip and those particular clips went viral and appeared on YouTube, over 50 million times they were watched, which is just a phenomenal number of times that a piece of information like that can be viewed and acted upon. And it just kind of goes to show you the difference between what happens just on a network television show and then what can happen when something actually goes viral. Here's a little more recent example. Earlier this year, I believe in the spring, we had a plane go down in the Hudson River. This fella, Giannis Crumbs, who you see his picture up here, he was on a ferry boat in the Hudson when the plane went down. So the ferry boat captain hangs a U-turn, they start heading back towards the airplane. When he gets there, people are already getting out of the plane. He snaps this picture and he fires it off on his Twitter account to all of his followers. You know, the nature of this picture is so dramatic that then more and more people started passing this picture around via Twitter. 34 minutes after he sent this picture, he's interviewed live on CNN. That's when they broke the story, 34 minutes after his picture was taken. So technically, CNN didn't even break the story. It was broken by social media. So another great example of how powerful the technology is becoming. Mayor of Charlotte, North Carolina, a fellow named John Belk, years ago, was going to revitalize the airport. A lot of his critics said, Mayor Belk, why are you doing that? This airport is on a dilapidated side of town, a lot of interstates, a lot of manufacturing. Why in the world are you revitalizing the airport there? And he said, well, it's because that's where the airplanes land, which I thought was just a genius quote there. And so, you know, today, social media is where the airplanes are landing. Like it or not, that's where the airplanes are landing. And so we've got to take it very seriously. Let's talk a little bit more about the power of social media. YouTube, more than 100 million videos are played daily. And the stat that just blows me away, because I don't know what else these people are doing all day, 100,000 new videos are added every day. LinkedIn, perhaps the most important social media tool from a business standpoint. It's what a lot of people are saying. 1 million people are joining every month. Certainly the fastest growing social media tool out there from a business perspective as well as from a consumer perspective is Twitter. Almost 1,400% growth in the past year, just phenomenal. 15 to 20 million unique users. I believe that's an estimate. I think they play that pretty close to the vest, but I believe that's accurate. I actually attended a webinar that Treehouse International put on, a company that does a lot of consulting in social media. And they promoted the webinar via Twitter. So they sent the tweet out to their followers. They have 976 followers. Their followers picked it up and they retweeted the message out to some of their followers. And so those who were interested picked up on that tweet, and if they were interested in that webinar, then they were able to learn about it and maybe sign up for it. So they marketed it via Twitter to 976 people, but the effective marketing number was over 10,000, just from one little simple tweet that they put out to recruit people to a webinar about social media. A local example of the power of social media. So what do you think? Where does social media fit in the grand scheme of things in your marketing strategy? Does it sit outside? Does it sit outside the box of channel marketing? I don't believe that it does. I believe that it's part of a comprehensive strategy and that we all need to treat it as such. In fact, we need to treat it as kind of another tool in the arsenal. So just like when you're doing webinars, you're doing telemarketing, you're doing email blasts, whatever it is that you're doing, social media can be a very important part of that campaign to help support it and really energize it a little bit. And social media is also what they call bidirectional, in that it can play a role supporting pretty much any other marketing tool in your arsenal. And I don't think you can say that about every other tool in your arsenal, that they can support and work together. Social media can really impact everything, every one of those little blue boxes there, plus a lot more if used correctly. So again, very, very powerful. We live in a world that is very much made up of interrupt messaging. Watching television, you got commercials. Listening to the radio station, you got commercials. Billboards, bus shelters, web banners. If you've gone to the movies, I don't go to the movies a lot, but I was there the other day. There are commercials inside the movie theater before you watch the movie that you paid to go see. So there's a lot of interrupt messaging out there, and I think a large part of the reason is marketers are trying to capture the right audience, and they're not really sure how to always do it. So they cast this very wide net, hoping that they're going to catch some of the people that they're trying to market to. And they are, but it comes with a pretty high price. They're doing a lot of interrupting out there. And I think us in our business, we're a little bit guilty of this too. And I'm probably going to catch some grief from my team from putting email up here, because from a B2B standpoint, email can be interruptive as well. And on occasion, we hear from you guys when we're doing a little too much of that, and we try to back it back down a little bit. So I think we're all a little bit guilty of that. And even a telephone call that's not timed appropriately can be a little bit of an interruption as well. So the key that social media allows is for us all to be where our prospects and customers want us to be when we want them to be there. They're using a lot of new techniques. They're using search tools to try to gain information. And they're accessing experts on the topics that they're looking for inside of social media platforms. So our customers and our prospects, their habits about acquiring information that they can use to make intelligent business decisions, their habits are changing. And I think it's incumbent upon us to at least explore the way that we can change as well and be a part of their world and a part of their space without always being an interruption. All right, so whose responsibility is social media? Is it the senior level person's responsibility? I would suggest to you that it's everybody in your company's responsibility. There's a lot of debate as to the role that senior management should play inside social media. Some people think it should be an aggressive role. Some people think it should be an internal role. And I think that's something that you're going to kind of have to come to grips with. And there's a lot of information out there that you can read and access to help you figure that out. But certainly, senior management can play some kind of role inside social media in being a thought leader, in trying to help set the tone for a certain type of an industry or a technology. There's some role that senior management can play in terms of being that thought leader. From a marketing perspective, there are just a variety of tools that are available. This is a marketer's dream. There's so many tools out there, you can't even count them all. And the really cool thing about social media is that most of the techniques come at a very low or even a zero cost. It's amazing how affordable from a dollars and cents standpoint social media can be. From a PR standpoint, those guys are always keeping their ears to the ground. They need to understand what's going on, what's being said about your company, using tools like Google Alerts and things like that. So the PR guys are definitely all over social media. From a sales standpoint, no question, it's a great way to become part of a conversation that could lead to uncovering some opportunities and some prospects and communicating with your current customer base and keeping tabs on what they're talking about. And you saw in the video, HR teams are using social media, particularly LinkedIn. The video that Eric did suggested that 80% of companies now are using LinkedIn as their number one tool to find prospects to come work at their company. So very interesting, and everybody can play a role.